Thank you so much for clicking on my video. And if you're returning, welcome back to my channel. Today, we are going to talk about the latest ITV interview promo that just got released. And we are also going to be talking about the alleged excerpt from Spare. So let's get into it. Once again, thank you so much for clicking on my video. If you have not already, feel free to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on that notification bell. If you are interested in becoming a member, use that join button or use the link in the description box below to go check out my Patreon. I'm gonna say a big hello to all of the members, courtesy to the Royal Court, so let's get started. It has been a wild ride. There were some crazy allegations that came out last night right before I went to bed, and so I woke up this morning with a lot on my mind. Before we get into any of that, I want to talk about the ITV promo because it's also going to help us to dissect the later topics that are going to come up in this video. So we have another promo that was released regarding the Tom Bradby interview with Prince Harry for ITV. In the promo, there were a number of things that were asked and commented on. So one of the first things that I want to talk about is this clip.
Some people will say you have railed against invasions of your privacy all your life. But the accusation will be, here are you invading the privacy of your most nearest and dearest without permission. That'll be the accusation.
That would be the accusation from the people that don't understand or don't want to believe that my family have been briefing the press.
Of course, we see Tom Bradby is basically saying you've asked for privacy your entire life. Why are you now, or it could be seen as you now, are railing against those who you should deem the dearest? And although I really liked Harry's answer, and I was glad that he gave such an honest answer, one of the things that struck me about this question and the people who perpetuate this is the fact that privacy does not exclude you from the truth. So what Harry was requesting and entitled to was for the palace and the palace friends to stop lying on him and his family, as well as breaching their safety with their briefings. So by telling people what my plans are, you're putting my future in jeopardy. By telling people who have attacked us, threatened us, breached our safety on our property, etc., sent white powder in mail to my wife, what you're doing for those people by telling them my location and stripping me of security is giving them incentive to harm me and putting me in harm's way. By briefing where I am when I'm on active duty in Afghanistan in a combat zone, you are breaching not only my safety, but the safety of my comrades and my troop. What Harry has asked for is common decency. Privacy is part of that, but here's the caveat to privacy. It's the fact that, yes, I would prefer people to keep our interactions private, but what I'm not entitled to is their perspective on my behavior towards them. And I'm also not entitled to signing off on their firsthand account of what experiences they've had. So if I want to be remembered a certain way, it's my responsibility to conduct myself in a responsible manner so that I never have to worry about someone's truth coming out. Because if someone sharing their own truth impedes on me or my reputation, then the fault doesn't lie with the person who shared their experience. The fault lies in my behavior. And I think that's part of the matrix of unaccountability that I keep seeing surround the royal family. It's the fact that they're not mad that they're acting like this. They're acting like, as one person put it, I think it was Kalechi, she said, they're acting like the Bad Girls Club, and they're mad that he's telling it. Well, you never really have to worry about someone's firsthand account when you're responsible for your own behavior and you behave that way. When you behave responsibly, you don't have to worry about anything coming out of the shadows. That's part of the reason why I don't do secrets. If it's something that I need to keep a secret, don't tell me. Obviously, if it's a surprise, that's a different thing. But if I have to keep your secret, you're doing me a disservice because one, I'm not going to be nefarious or malicious. And two, it's not my responsibility to manage your reputation. And if your reputation precedes you because of your behavior, then you don't get mad at the people who warn others that working with you or being around you could be a safety violation. You get mad at yourself that you've even done that. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because you're worried about how people will perceive you. But if people's perception of you is an issue, then I would look at my own behavior, not at the people who are sharing their experience. Privacy does not cover reputation management. He also brought up, if invited to the coronation, will you come?
Invited to the coronation, will you come?
There's a lot that can happen between now and then. But, you know, the door is always open. The ball is in their court. There's a lot to be discussed, and I really hope that they are willing to sit down and talk about it.
This now confirms that Tom Bradby will be at the coronation because he didn't say, will you go? He said, will you come? So Tom Bradby will likely be there. And this is where Prince Harry's statements from this promo alone have already been misconstrued, so I'm glad to talk about it here. He says, there's a lot that can happen between now and then. The door is always open and the ball is in their court. He said that regarding the coronation. We're going to come back to that.
You still believe in the monarchy?
Yes.
At a beat, he said yes. That silences the narrative that he's trying to bring down the monarchy. He's never tried to bring down the monarchy. But again, I bring back to you, be mindful of the conditioning that you've experienced. You have been conditioned to always support the side of the abuser. Because if him telling his truth could bring down the monarchy, don't you want to know what it is? If the truth of his experience with the monarchy is bad enough to bring them down, aren't you the least bit concerned? Are you more interested in maintaining your delusion, or are you interested in knowing the people who you really serve? I mean, what side of the fence are you on? Are you pro yourself at all? Because let me tell you this, I will never reject the truth about the leaders of my country. Ever. I want to know everything. Lastly,
You believe you'll play a part in its future?
I don't know.
and Harry said, I don't know. But here's where I want to correct that. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Maybe not the future he once thought he would. But what people fail to realize is that Harry is a royal family member by blood. What he does will always have an effect on them. What they do will always have an effect on him, because this isn't a government entity. This is his family that he was born into. He has no say in how his family brought him up or what he was destined to do or to be. But essentially, they asked him to be born to be a damn shadow. And when he railed against that, they had an issue with it. If someone not allowing abuse is a problem for you, then you are an abuser or an abuse enabler. That's a problem. So I want to get into the allegations that were made about Prince William violently attacking Prince Harry. So I'm pulling this from The Guardian. Now, I don't know, and nor can I verify the validity of these excerpts. I cannot tell you 100% that these are valid or accurate in any way. But what I can say is I trust The Guardian. I've used them on this channel before. And so we're going to move forward as if this is 100% true, because as of right now, that's what we know. And if for any reason this comes out that these excerpts were inaccurate or not correct or misleading, then we will come back and revisit and correct. So in this article from The Guardian titled Prince Harry Details Physical Attack by Brother William in His New Book. The link to this article is in the description box below. You are going to want to read it firsthand because I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but I will, talk about the high points. In his highly anticipated autobiography, Spare, Prince Harry recounts what he says was a physical attack by his brother William, now Prince of Wales, as their relationship fell apart over the younger prince's marriage to the actor Meghan Markle. Describing a confrontation at his London home in 2019, Harry says William called Meghan difficult, rude, and abrasive, which Harry calls a parroting of the press narrative about his American wife. I wonder if at that time Harry knew that the press was getting that narrative from the person in his home. The confrontation escalated, Harry writes, until William, quote, grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace and knocked me to the floor. The extraordinary scene, which Harry says resulted in invisible injury to his back, is one of many in Spare, which will be published worldwide next week and is likely to spark serious furor for the British royal family. Amid stringent pre-launch security around the book, The Guardian obtained a copy. The book's title comes from an old saying in royal and aristocratic circles that a firstborn is an heir to titles, power, and fortune, and a second is therefore a spare should anything happen to the firstborn. Spare is a remarkable volume in which the altercation between the two princes forms a startling passage. Harry writes that William wanted to talk about the whole rolling catastrophe of their relationships and struggles with the press. But when William arrived at Nottingham Cottage, where Harry was then living in the grounds of Kensington Palace and known as Knotcott, he was, as Harry says, already piping hot. After William complained about Meghan, Harry writes, Harry told him he was repeating the press narrative and that he expected better. But William was not being rational, leading the two men shouting over each other. Harry then accused his brother of acting like an heir, unable to understand why his younger brother was not content to just be the spare. Insults were exchanged before William claimed he was trying to help. Harry said, "Are you serious? Help me? Is this what you call this? Helping me?" That comment, Harry says, angered his brother, who swore while stepping towards him. Now scared, Harry writes, he went to the kitchen, his furious brother following. Harry writes that he gave his brother a glass of water and said, "Willie, I can't speak to you when you're like this." He writes, he set down the water, called me another name, then came at me. It all happened so fast, so very fast. He grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and he knocked me to the floor. I landed on the dog's bowl, which cracked under my back, the pieces cutting into me. I lay there for a moment, dazed, then got to my feet and told him to get out. Harry writes that William urged him to hit back, citing fights they had as children. Harry says he refused to do so. William left, then returned looking regretful and apologized. When William left again, he turned and called back, "You don't need to tell Meghan about this." "You mean that you attacked me?" Quote, "I didn't attack you, Harold." Harry says he didn't immediately tell his wife, but he did call his therapist. When Meghan later noticed scrapes and bruises on his back, and he therefore told her of the attack, she wasn't that surprised and wasn't all that angry. She was just terribly sad. The acrimonious split from the royal family has been the subject of endless press coverage. Some of it steered themselves, including via a famous interview with Oprah Winfrey in 2021 that caused huge controversy on both sides of the Atlantic and around the world. Subjects from the interview and a recently released Netflix documentary, including a miscarriage suffered by Meghan and her thoughts of unaliving. Suggestions of racism within royal circles are covered extensively in Harry's book. And I want every detail. The book has been trailed, and 2 interviews with Harry are due to be broadcast in the UK and the US this weekend with ITV News at 10 and CBS 60 Minutes. Both interviews are eagerly awaited, trailers and teasers reported on, as news speculation about what Harry has chosen to say in his book continues. In a clip from the ITV interview, Harry said, "I would like to get my father back. I would like to have my brother back." Given the details recounted in his book that might not seem immediately likely, indeed one of Harry's most pertinent revelations of private conversations between the senior royals comes from the very front of his book. Harry recounted an anguished meeting with Charles and William after the Windsor Castle funeral of Prince Philip, the Queen's husband, in April 2021. Charles, he says, stood between his warring sons, looking up at their flushed faces, quote, "Please, boys, don't make my final years a misery." So that's the end of the article, but I left a lot of detail out, so feel free to go check that out firsthand so that you can have the full experience and also all the details. That article definitely was revealing. It has been said time and time again, reportedly, allegedly, that Prince William has an anger issue as well as Prince Charles. Even Camilla has noted Prince William's anger. At some point, he railed against Charles verbally, and Charles cowered down. That is an allegation, but it is an article and a story that is going around. Here's the problem. I never know what to believe because Clarence House, Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, they all fight each other. So I never know. But I watch a lot of UK media from time to time, And like, if there's something big that goes on, I will consume a lot of UK coverage as well as US coverage, and the differences are notable, but I do that on purpose to see what the narrative is. Over here, we are kind of protected from it, although we are exposed. But when you get into the nitty gritty with the UK media, it is bad. Is it stiff upper lip, or is it ignoring abuse because it's convenient? Ask yourself this. So I watched this news clip from the Lorraine show, and she had a guest on today talking about Prince Harry's allegations in his book Spare. The guest had a number of comments or questions that I just deemed to be response worthy. So first, Lorraine notes that she's shocked that the brothers are fighting in their 30s.
I honestly didn't think that we would be talking about brothers fighting one another at that age. I mean, look, brothers and sisters fight all the time. They do. But usually not when they're in their 30s.
There's discussions about Meghan calling her, Harry claims William had called her rude, difficult, abrasive. It all came to a head. Then they had this huge sort of big punch-up, I suppose.
And I was shocked too, but I want to correct this verbiage. They weren't fighting. This was not a fight. Although there was an invitation to fight, this wasn't a fight. This was a brutal attack. This was an intentional, physical, violent attack. Also, something that bugged me about this interview or this coverage.
The detail is almost comedic. I don't want to make light of the fact that they had a fight, but it is almost, you know, the sort of the necklace and the dog's bowl and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
weird.
I mean, again,
Lorraine called the details that Harry provided comical. Now, Lorraine seems to not be one of the nastier people, so I don't think that she's just out for blood. But what I will say about that comment, that this was comical, is that takes like this are harmful and very dangerous. They continue to perpetuate a narrative that the victim is somehow under scrutiny versus the perpetrator. So I didn't find the details comical at all. I actually didn't find anything about that story funny. None of it could have been counted as a joke or funny or unnecessary. Here's why details are necessary. One, when you've been traumatized, a lot of times you will remember that moment and it will literally be stamped on your brain. Every single detail is in vivid color in front of you every time you recount that experience. Trust me on that. Secondly, when you are writing a book, you have to provide detail so that the author can convey the picture necessary so that the reader can have the experience intended. And they want to provide a certain level of imagery so that they can thoroughly tell the story. I don't know if Lorraine reads a lot, but books often contain details that are pertinent, no matter how small, to the story. I would assume that by reading books on her own, she would have known this, but maybe that's not something she does. I don't know Lorraine. I don't watch her a lot. But what I will say is, by sharing that when William pulled Harry's shirt or jerked his shirt, he also broke his necklace. This is important because it tells us the intensity of which he was grabbed. You don't break necklaces and you don't break jewelry, metal jewelry, by accident or by playing or by roughhousing as fun brothers living it up. That was an attack. And by sharing that he even broke his necklace just by grabbing his shirt is sharing just how hard that man grabbed him and pushed him. I don't see how that wouldn't be necessary. She also lamented the fact that he said dog bowl. Well, if he says I fell and had cuts in my back, we are now missing a piece as to where did the cuts come from? What did you fall on? What did you hit on your way down? It's called writing a book. And I don't think she gets that. And maybe Lorraine needs to read a book or two. I don't know. But I just found that to be so odd that her takeaway from details of a physical violent assault were comical. Okay, Lorraine. Okay, girl. Her guest made a number of comments that triggered me.
But, you know, Harry's sort of flip-flopping. On one sense, we've heard him say, I want my brother back, I want my father back. And then he is absolutely dropping bombs on all the family.
Her guest says Harry was flip-flopping because one second he says that he would like to have his brother and father back. On the next second, he's dropping bombs. He doesn't know whether Harry is coming or going. He also said Harry looked angry in interviews. So if you've been physically violently attacked, your wife has been verbally attacked and harassed, would you not be upset? Don't tone manage people who've been through trauma. You don't get to tone police people because they're not telling their experience, their firsthand experience, the way you want them to. I would recommend you just listen to the details and concern yourself with the facts of the recount, as opposed to sitting here saying, oh, well, they shouldn't be angry. You damn right I'm angry. I got attacked and injured, and my wife was harassed period, but also harassed while pregnant. Who wouldn't be angry? And to Lorraine's guest, which I forgot to get his name, would you not be upset if your wife was harassed or if you were physically attacked? Your kid was called a monkey. At this point, would you not be upset? And if you weren't, something's wrong with you. You're a pushover. You're a marshmallow. You're a freaking loser if you wouldn't protect your wife or yourself or your children. And the sad part is you have to protect them from your family. Oh, there's a lot to be mad about, a lot. And by tone policing him, you are deflecting from the meat and potatoes of his statement, which is your monarchy is abusive, physically and mentally and emotionally. And instead of acknowledging the elephant in the room, you're gonna look at the elephant's toenails. That could use some paint. I'm not gonna listen to this elephant until he puts paint on his nails. No, the elephant in the room is that your monarchy is abusive. Like, these are the things you should be talking about, not the little small minute details, like him being angry. They also discuss Tom Bradby asking Harry if he could see himself in a future in the monarchy. We know Harry said he doesn't know. He doesn't have an answer to that. My answer is yes, because he will always be part of the monarchy because he is a royal prince by blood. So even if he doesn't go back full time, which he has no interest in doing, his actions will always affect the monarchy, and so will the actions of his children. But for some reason, Lorraine's guest misconstrued it despite being on a television show, despite not doing his homework. And he says that Harry goes, yes, but the ball is in their court. No, the ball is in their court regarding the coronation, not regarding whether or not Harry will be a full-time royal family member again. That is not what that answer was to. Y'all are already misconstruing a promo. It feels intentional. And lastly,
and I just think there can't be anything more for him to say. And then you get this kind of a thing. But
and of course, what is the end game? It looks like he's trying to bring down the institution. He'd already said, I wanted a family, not an institution. Well, unfortunately, it is an institution. He says that he supports the monarchy, but how can he when he's dropping these sorts of allegations?
They also go on to say you can potentially understand William's anger and fury because he cares about the monarchy when Harry and Meghan decided to step back. He must have been very frustrated. They completely infantilized William as just this angry young boy who just cares about his family and his country. They completely omitted the fact that he attacked his brother physically and verbally attacked his sister-in-law. By saying 1 second he's railing against his family and the next second he wants to work it out, he doesn't know whether he's coming or he's going, you are completely omitting the fact that every situation, particularly those that involve family, are nuanced, where multiple things can be true at once. What Harry has experienced is abuse. He is not the first person in the world to ever experience abuse. He's not even the first person in his family to experience abuse, physical or verbal or mental or emotional. But what I will say is this: with multiple things being true at once, you can recognize that someone has abusive tendencies while not wanting to fully believe that that person is not good for you. You can totally see someone as the loving, caring person you've made them up to be, or you can just see them as an entire figure and not make them the summation of all their worst decisions. And you can see them as the full person that they are. And you can choose to love the parts of them that aren't abusive while condemning the parts of them that are. So when you say 1 second he's railing against the royal family, next second he wants to work it out, this is what's entailed in working it out. You're one of those people who likes to throw things under the rug, but the only person that hurts is the victim. Because what you're asking the victim to do is not only be silent about their pain, but you're asking them to be responsible for the relationship that they did not break. So when someone says, this is something that happened to me, I want us to work it out, the violation isn't in the fact that they recounted that experience. The violation is in what happened to them. And so the abuser is responsible for repenting for what they did, making the necessary changes, and building that bridge and that trust back. When you ignore those factors, You are completely omitting the needs of every member of the family and prioritizing the needs of the abuser because it's convenient for you. How Harry shares his story, when Harry shares his story, and why Harry shares his story isn't the question. The story in and of itself is what needs dissecting. And in that dissection, we need to hold those perpetrators accountable, not because they're a family, but because they are the leaders of a commonwealth and a nation. They are responsible for who they are and how they conduct themselves, even behind closed doors. And I'll say to those who say, well, Harry shouldn't be telling what happens behind closed doors. Oh, yes, the hell he can, considering he wasn't safe from even making a decision about where he wanted to live without it being exposed. None of this would be happening if they had not been perpetrating abuse against Harry and his family in the first place. Now, you can't be mad at the victim when they choose to fight fire with water. If you put me on this main stage to take abuse, I can douse your flames with the truth. And you can't be angry with me for that. If you didn't want this type of game to be played, you should not have opened up the box. CBS Mornings. And they had a correspondent on the panel called Nate Burleson. And I'm going to show you the clip and then I'm going to give you my comments.
I mean, this is shocking news, but it's so sad. These are brothers.
Yeah.
And you have to hope that there's some kind of resolution because there's so much pain on all sides.
Absolutely. Yeah, those relationships are so important. This is something different. It's bigger than that. When you're talking about someone's wife, and the easy response is brothers fight. But when you're talking about at this level for certain reasons, it's tough. But he said.
So Nate Burleson is the first person to discuss this on a nationwide or global stage that I have found properly focused on what was needed to be focused on. Harry protected his wife. Harry was outraged at the comments about his wife. Harry was a protector and defender of his household. He should have never been put in that situation. All for one, one for all. So the fact that Harry even had to make a choice like that, I'm not mad at Harry for defending his wife. He did what he was supposed to do. I'm mad at the person who put him in a position to choose. Y'all know what I said. Anytime you try to go up against a family member and their spouse, you will lose. Now that we've seen those clips and kind of gotten abreast on the story, I do want to revisit some things that I've talked about before, which is the fact that there are many allegations and reported stories of William being a bully. He has been called ill-tempered, rageful, hot-headed, and overall a bully and a terror, or I should say a royal terror. In addition, he's long been accused of having a severe jealousy streak, and to me, that sounds like a lethal combination aimed at one person for a lifetime, the Spare. It's almost like they had Harry to become a punching bag, and it seems as though without Diana, he was left exposed to take whatever abuse he was going to take. And apparently, Charles was also taking the same. In addition to Prince William being a rageful person, allegedly, it's also alleged that Charles is also a rageful person, which we've talked about. He's been accused of not only ripping a sink out of a wall because he got upset, but he's also allegedly choked a staff member. I find it to be interesting that William, who has also reportedly verbally abused Camilla's daughter, verbally abused Meghan, physically attacked Harry. Prince Charles has physically attacked a wall and a staffer. And then we saw Prince Louis physically attack his mother. Now, here's the wall I'm going to put up right there before we get started. I'm going to ask that everybody be mindful in the comment section when talking about Prince Louis because he is a child. I do not discuss children in the same way that I discuss adults because their behavior is determined by their parents and the way they are raised. Prince Louis is a kid. He is a very young kid and he has time to correct. So when I speak about Prince Louis, I am in no way encouraging people to read a child because that is not what I'm about over here. I'm acknowledging his behavior to acknowledge a pattern in that household. I caught heat when I said that the first time. I'm standing by that because I don't talk shit about children. But it's interesting that Prince Charles has notably had a temper for a very long time. We saw the pin. He allegedly choked a staffer. We know that he was emotionally and verbally abusive to Diana. And now we see the same thing with William, physically attacking his brother and being very disrespectful to his sister-in-law, allegedly verbally attacking his dad to the point that he cowered down and Camilla was shocked, to now Louis physically attacking his mother. That is on the parents. But what I will say is, like father, like son. In the words of Bert from White Lotus,
Like father, like father, like son.
like father, like father, like son. What you don't change, you will encourage and perpetuate again. So when people call Harry weak for speaking about and advocating for resources for mental health management and awareness, he isn't weak, he's responsible. It takes a great deal of strength to say the things that people are uncomfortable to say. And just like his mother, he cares about other people outside of himself. Harry has access to the best care possible in every shape, form, or fashion. By doing what is needed to provide access to others shows his selflessness. That's not something to condemn, that's something to applaud. So I thought it was interesting about Prince Louis in particular. After hearing the story about Prince William violently attacking Harry, I immediately went back to what Prince Louis did to Kate. And it brought about this memory of this article I read, and I was able to find it from Psychology Today. And the title of the article is The Alarming Effects of Children's Exposure to Domestic Violence. Now, this was written by Blake Griffin Edwards, LMFT, and it was reviewed by Matt Houston. It's linked in the description box below. I'm only going to read 3 excerpts because I feel like they make the point pretty clearly. The first point is domestic violence takes many forms, including chronic arguing and yelling, controlling behaviors, intimidation, threats of unaliving, or threats involving weapons, and serious injuries. There is always, however, a destructive undercurrent of power and control, with offenders commonly and compulsively grasping for in a surrogate the control that is lacking within themselves. Any pattern of behaviors in intimate relationships marked by coercive control can be a signal or foreshadowing of abuses. Next excerpt. A growing body of literature has revealed that children who have been exposed to DV are more likely than their peers to experience a wide range of difficulties, from anger and oppositional behavior to fear, low self-worth, and withdrawal to sibling, peer, and social relationships. Studies have found evidence of much higher rates of pro-violent attitudes, rigid stereotypical gender beliefs involving male privilege, animal abuse, bullying, assault, property destruction, or substance abuse. In the last excerpt, a study by Kilpatrick, Litt, and Williams concluded that witnessing DV is an experience in and of itself sufficiently intense to precipitate post-traumatic stress in children. The Adverse Childhood Experiences study, led by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, has classified exposure to DV as one of several adverse childhood experiences contributing to poor quality of life, premature death, and risk factors for many of the most common causes of death in the United States. In addition to the exposure itself, other factors influence impact, including the nature of the violence, age of the child, elapsed time since exposure, and the child's gender and presence of physical or other types of abuse. Children who witness fewer incidents of violence and experience positive interactions between caregivers may be, for instance, less detrimentally impacted than those exposed to frequent and extreme aggression. Now, here's the part of particular interest for me. Younger children exhibit more concerning levels of psychological distress than older, more developmentally mature children. Children are highly anxious and fearful immediately after witnessing an incident of DV, and less observably so as time passes, but this should not be assumed to indicate an absence of anxiety or fear. Boys tend to exhibit more externalizing behavior problems such as aggression and acting out, while girls tend to exhibit more internalizing behavior problems such as social withdrawal and depression. So I wanted to make this connection that I made in my mind. I am not, again, making any accusation about these people. I do not know them firsthand. I am going to take the headlines that I've read and inform you of what my assumption or worst case scenario is. I just find it to be an interesting coincidence because I cannot allege this to be true 100% because I don't know. It's a coincidence, quite the coincidence, that Prince Charles has long been said to have a temper and show violent outbursts. It's also a coincidence that Prince William has not only been long said to be violent, physically, mentally, and verbally,
No, it's all right.
Policy of making Harry feel important sometimes upset William. He began to see Harry as a rival, especially on skis.
There was a lot of jealousy. I think at one stage William stomped off in a tantrum.
Harry had a natural affinity with sport.
The sporting star of the family is definitely Harry, and it always has been. And that used to really irritate William.
That he's not quite the warm and fuzzy character that maybe some of the people lining up in the streets think he is. For all of his easygoing facade, Prince William is obviously a very controlling character.
But to also now have been alleged that he physically attacked his brother. I don't know about you, but physical attacks don't happen in a vacuum. There are a number of things that could lead to this. And what I don't want to do is make light of this. I know that people were like, oh, the brothers are squabbing and they fighting and all that stuff. And while I understand where that comes from because they're royal and it's just shocking that this is coming out, I want to be very mindful and be very honest and cognizant of the fact that this is domestic violence. Sibling on sibling physical violence is domestic violence. This is violent. This is an attack and an assault. And I don't want to refer to it as anything but that. But here's the connection that I immediately made. Prince Charles has long been said to be violent. Prince William has been alleged to be a hothead, be violent, to be physically a violent person, and to now allegedly attacking physically his brother. And then we saw his son, Prince Louis, display very similar behaviors as those reported to have been seen of William. He physically attacked his mother by putting his hand on her face, making fun of her and ridiculing her. He is a child, which tells me, now it's not impossible, but it is highly unlikely that he made those things up. I personally believed then, and I now believe it again, even more so, that he observed those behavior by someone close to him that he looks up to or trusts, someone that he mimics their behavior, someone that he's likely encouraged to mimic or to model himself after. When he did that, I immediately wondered, what made him think it was okay to do that to Kate? Has he observed someone else doing that to Kate? My concern went there because it wasn't something that you see every day, a child physically attacking their parent. It happens. Kids have outbursts. But again, although he is a small child, he is not a 1-year-old. Those were intentional acts that he observed and then he mimicked. Now, if we know the man in his household has physically attacked his brother, and now we know that he has a proclivity for physically attacking his mom, and that boundary has now been crossed, has he observed someone else doing the same things that he did to his mother? A known violent rageaholic, allegedly. I don't think that happened in a vacuum. And it makes me wonder what else that child is observing. Now, I won't speculate, but I will say it's just interesting, and what a coincidence it is to know that Prince Charles has not only been violent, but so has his son and now his grandson. It would be weird to not make that connection and assume that Louis has observed that behavior in his household. I will also say this to anyone who may experience violence in their household. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It is like putting a frog in water. You don't put them in boiling water. You put them in lukewarm water that they're comfortable in, and you slowly raise the heat. Before long, they are cooking and don't even realize it because they're acclimating to the heat as it rises. Abusers often play a role, or they put on a facade, and they portray themselves to be someone that you can trust. And once they've got you hooked in one way or the other, whether it's estrangement from loved ones, whether it's money, whether it's rescuing, whether it's public profile or access, whatever it is, once they have you hooked, they will not immediately turn the corner. Jekyll and Hyde is not like a common thing, possible, but not common. What they will do is slowly escalate their behavior until you are comfortable with them being the person they truly are. And it's often to your detriment. So when people throw things in anger, break your things in anger, show a callous attitude towards your possessions, you should start observing that behavior. When people mistreat your things, That is a representation of what they would like to do to you, and at some point it will become you. It's violent behavior. When people punch holes in walls, they are acclimating you to the idea of them punching in anger and being physically violent. When someone is willing to harm themselves physically in order to exert that type of energy, they don't have a limit on what they'll do to you. They're willing to harm themselves. Somebody punching walls, destroying items, yelling at you, hovering over you, those are all acts of violence, and they will soon escalate to you. Now, I cannot say one way or the other if William has ever hit Kate. Cannot say that, will not say that. But I will say Louis saw what he did somewhere. It wasn't a made up thing. He didn't get it from nowhere. And if we now know there's an abuser in that family, and then we see a child act out what we have heard happens in that family amongst adults, I wonder what else he's seeing. What else is happening? And what else is Louis observing to mimic that behavior? I'm going to leave that there, but I'll say this. If you are in a situation where someone is violently acting out, but it hasn't physically harmed you yet, you're next. You're next. Do something while you have a chance. You cannot love someone out of their violence. Now, I do believe you can love someone beyond the evolution of their bad habits. But at any point, if their bad habits are affecting your safety, you need to get out. Because you can't bear the fruits of their evolution if you are not alive. Also, safety comes first. So if someone else's evolution impedes on your safety in any way, the cost is too great. They're going to have to figure it out on their own. They don't deserve you. They don't need you, whoever you may be. I will tell you that. Do not be patient with abuse. Lastly, I'm going to play this clip from Jeremy Vine's show where he had on a guest, and I just felt like her comments encapsulated everything that I was thinking. So
what I find really interesting about this whole saga is we framed it as Harry and Meghan's war on the royal family, when actually it's Harry and Meghan's war on the press and the media. And remember, the purpose of the PR office at the royal family is to keep the royals in the press all the time. So you have to remember, when I work in newsrooms, it's a fact that every anti-Harry and Meghan story comes from Kensington Palace.
But why
and if it comes from Kensington Palace, why are they briefing against their own grandson?
Well, okay, that's a very...
Her comments hit the nail on the head. And a group of abusers who are enabled by the press, the media, and the institution, as well as their reputation and what they mean to their country. So people don't want to hold them accountable. But here's my issue. For people who get more upset that Harry is exposing who these people really are you not the least bit concerned for the fact that they act like this? If they didn't do this stuff, there would be nothing to expose. So being upset about the exposure, but not upset about the actual behavior is shocking to me. I want to know what's going on. I want to know, because you people bow to these people. You bow to them, you curtsy them, you show them respect, you paid their bills. And as much as you want to deny it, or maybe you didn't know, that's your institution. That's your monarchy. As the citizens, the monarchy is there for you. You pay their bills. So you should definitely be informed. Harry did you a favor. He showed you who the hell these people really are. Don't you want to know? If you are more interested in maintaining your delusion of this fairy tale than you are about praising people who enable and perpetuate abuse, you are also part of the problem. I would be 10 times more concerned knowing about abuse that's taking place, especially domestic violence, versus concerned about, oh, my fairy tale is over because I wanted to one day be a princess and now Harry's ruined that. No, Harry didn't ruin anything. They did. Again, he would have nothing to share if these people weren't abusing him and his wife. Every time you get upset about another story coming out or another bombshell, be mad at the people who are making these things happen, because there is no story to tell if they weren't perpetuating abuse in the first place. And that's exactly where everybody should be. If you're exhausted with the stories, be exhausted with the fact that this shit happened. And if you're tired of hearing about it, imagine how tired they are of experiencing it. Show empathy. That's all part of the matrix that makes abusers feel invincible. And lastly, my last point of this video. This is why I call Harry a real man amongst kings. Because his wife was being disrespected, and he stood 10 toes down in the face of extreme adversity and violence to protect his wife physically and emotionally and mentally. He called it out. That's a message to all you people that love perpetuating that whole, I'm not going to hold my family accountable for how they treat my spouse with the whole, that's just how they are. Okay, well, if you get married, you're now responsible for protecting your wife. You should be a shield between your wife and the world, always. When you are a spouse, you protect your spouse, even against the people you call family, because let me tell you this, there are relatives and there are family, and family will not ask you to choose, but relatives feel like they're entitled to you. Relatives feel like they're entitled to abusing your spouse because they don't respect you. If someone is attacking or disrespecting your spouse and they're not the least bit concerned about how that will affect you, they don't respect you and they don't love you, because you cannot love someone you don't respect. So if someone feels entitled to harming your spouse, that is up to you to handle. And that's why I said Harry is a man amongst kings. But in addition to being a man, I think of him as a true hero, because we have seen the video that circulates all the time showing how Harry is a very strong person. He has a strength, not only strength of mind and emotion, but strength of body. He is a physically fit person. He is a very strong person. And in contrast, William is not. William is a marshmallow, an overgrown potato.
Bravo! Hooray!
And we have a video that goes around every week that proves that. The reason I call Harry a hero is because he showed great strength and courage by choosing not to freaking pulverize William when William pushed him to the limit. He showed great restraint. He showed honor not only for his family, but for himself. He showed respect for himself. He put his position in the monarchy before he put his own safety, and he should have never had to make a choice like that. The fact that he showed restraint knowing he could beat William's ass without a doubt shows me what type of man he is. That true king. And because I always say the monarchy belongs to you, the people, that is the type of person I would want representing me. That is the type of person that will protect his wife, the type of person that will protect himself and others, the type of person that will show restraint when needed, even though he has the strength of 10 men to pulverize a pipsqueak like William. A man who literally looks like he bites. Like I said that on Twitter, William looks like he bites. He looks like a mouse. He looks like the freaking Rat King from the Nutcracker. So all I'm saying is I would want someone like Harry representing me, a man who is not only strong physically, but has strength of mind and presence of mind to make wise decisions even in the face of adversity. A person who thinks about others more so than himself. A person who has shown he is not racist, and so much so that he is anti-racist. He is not passive about abuse. A person who understands the value of mental health and mental health awareness, and not only that, but access for people who may not have it. A person who advocates for the little guy. A person who not only doesn't go looking for a fight, but he goes and looks for problems to solve. A person who will stand up for the weak and put a voice to the voiceless and stand up for those who may not have access, like veterans or veterans facing physical or mental damage or impairment or tragedies. A person who will be there for children who've lost parents, something he is not required to do. A person who will take his butt to Compton and give out booster shots for COVID because he wants communities to be better. Community and many communities alike that are often overlooked or considered unsafe. He went there because they're people. He sees people beyond the stereotypes because he doesn't play into it. That is a leader. That is a person that I would put my money behind. That is a person that I would willingly be happy to have in a monarchy if I were in one. That is a person I would want to go globally represent my country. That is the type of person I would gladly pay their taxes, because what they're out here doing is committing themselves to a life of service, although they have access to privilege that I can't even conceptualize, and they never have to work a day in their life. They have committed themselves to a life of service because it's the right thing to do. And you want to know something interesting? As many people want to say Harry is turning from his destiny, oh no, honey, it's clear you don't know who Harry is. He's walking in his destiny. Have you met his mother?
I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts, in people's hearts, but I don't see myself being queen of this country. I mean the establishment that I'm married into, because they've decided that I'm a non-starter. Because I do things differently. Because I don't go by a rule book, because I lead from the heart, not the head. And albeit that's got me into trouble in my work, I understand that. But someone's got to go out there and love people and show it.
Mental health, like the problems of drug and alcohol misuse, does not easily attract public sympathy.
This made her a major spokesperson for mental health and eating disorders, though it likely wasn't what the royal family wanted.
So we, in turn, must recognise the part that individuals can play in caring for all the casualties of our society.
Regardless, Diana's legacy continues in her sons, with Prince Harry notably speaking about mental health and championing many charitable causes, including the effects being in the royal family has on a person.
So that is why I titled this video Prince Harry, a true hero amongst kings, because you can wear the crown all day, but the weight and the responsibility goes to those who have a true presence of mind and the clarity of heart and the clarity of a good heart to do what is right. And out of these three men, Charles, William, and Harry, I can only see one that is worthy of being a king, because he is already a king. You can have the titles, but you will never have the same level of respect. Harry is respected globally. He is loved globally. And there's a reason for that. Like Harry has said, he is very much his mother's son. So that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think down in the comments section. If you have not already, please don't forget to like this video. Let me know that you rock with me. And if you are interested, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that my channel can continue to grow and then I can continue to make videos. But I appreciate you watching and supporting the channel. It means the world to me. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back tomorrow and I will see you next time.